Web pages fall into two classes, those with backgrounds and those without. As for the backgrounds themselves, they can be grouped into three different categories: those with left edge backgrounds, those with complete backgrounds, and then everything else like I have in this document. So let me introduce you to some techniques for adding both colored backgrounds as well as backgrounds containing graphics. But before we continue, be warned, the use of any of the following background techniques can be dangerous. Some of the ugliest pages on the web owe their distinction to the use of distracting backgrounds, producing complex pages with poor legibility. A poorly designed background image or tile can ruin a page. That being said, it's possible to create stunning web pages with the help of these background features. Perhaps the most popular technique is to use a tiled graphic as a background. Graphics can be tiled using HTML to form a background pattern behind the web page. However, pages that use large background images take much longer to download. Also, the background patterns tend to make pages much harder to read unless they're carefully designed. So the graphics tile is often employed. What you have is a very small JPEG or GIF image, ideally no bigger than about 100 by 100 pixels in size. That's the size of this tile right here. And then you use HTML to repeat the pattern either in a horizontal direction, a vertical direction like I have here, or in both directions. Here is the code for the previous page. I'm using a body tag here, background image. There is the source of my image. There's a graphic called parchment.gif in my images subfolder in the work files folder where this file is saved. I'm using an attribute background repeat and repeat in the Y direction. This is here in the body style of the head section right here. I reviewed the style tag earlier in this tutorial. Here's the code for the full tile, the tile that goes in both the X and Y directions. You can see that this attribute here, background repeat, repeat-y, comma, repeat-x, semicolon is the proper code. Notice that this is inside of these curly braces here, using the body style here in the style tag of the head section. If we look at that image again, you can see that this is tiling in both directions, horizontally and vertically. So again, let me give you the warning. The use of this background tile technique can be dangerous. Some of the ugliest pages on the web owe their distinction to the use of these tiles if they're distracting, if they're too wild, or if they take away from the foreground content. Remember, the purpose of a background is to enhance and complement the foreground material. So if you can't read the foreground, or if the background is distracting and taking away from the foreground material, you're probably better off to either tone down the graphic background or remove it completely. Typical graphics used for background patterns are generally homogeneous and very subdued textures, even more subdued than the example that I have here. All modern browsers also allow a specific color to be chosen for the background of a web page. This feature makes it possible to replace the boring white or ugly default gray background with an HTML command. This technique is a zero bandwidth option, as it allows a designer to change the look of a page without the overhead of adding a graphic. Even the tile method does add a small graphic to the download time of your web page. This method here doesn't require any graphics at all, so is a zero bandwidth. It's also a method for improving the legibility of a page. Here I have two yellow divisions set up by div tags in front of a pale yellow background. This background is not produced by a graphic, but using an HTML tag. Here is the HTML in my Notepad program. Again, this is going to be body style here, background dash color equals, and then the hexadecimal value with a pound sign in front of it of the color that I want to use as a background, and then semicolon. Again, this is going to be in the head section. In my style tag, there's my opening style tag. My closing style tag is here. My closing head tag is there. And then here in the body I have my two AP divs. The divs are defined by their own styles, including their own background colors, but you can see the effect is to get a nice enhancement of the foreground content here by using a very pale background. Much more about styling your colors using CSS later in the tutorial, but I thought it was worth mentioning here that you can also use a HTML tag to color your pages, or you can use the tiling feature to introduce graphic backgrounds or colored backgrounds to your HTML pages.